My hot therapist became my new addiction. You can take your hand off my waist now, Ravi. For a moment, we just stood there, my arms wrapped around him, back pressed against my chest. He was warm, soft, and holy hell, he smelled amazing. Like flowers and sunshine and everything good in the world. I was holding Colin. I was holding my therapist. And God, did it feel good. Ravi, I'm good now. Please let go of me, Colin repeated, struggling against my muscled frame. Oh, sorry. I finally snapped out of it, carrying him over to his usual leather chair. A fallen chair next to the bookshelf spoke volumes of the disaster, and it would have occurred if I had been 5 minutes early to our usual session. Thanks, Colin muttered into my shoulder, his voice muffled a little. He wriggled free from my arms to straighten out his shirt, then dragged a hand through his mess of bleached hair. That could have been bad. No worries, Doc. I've always wanted to be someone's knight in shining armor. I shot him a grin, trying to ignore the way my heart was pounding. Colin cleared his throat, a faint blush staining his cheeks. Right. Well, shall we get started? We took our usual positions, him in his leather armchair with his notepad, me sprawled on the couch opposite him. Pen scribbling on his notepad, and Colin cleared his throat. Ravi, your second round of sessions will soon be over. Think it's time for you to consider moving on? My stomach dropped. From therapy or him? I don't know, Doc. I still got issues, and life's rough. But you're already stable and sober, Ravi. Time to lose the training wheels. I picked at the couch, not looking at him. No way that I want to leave this safe little bubble with him. Talking to Caleb still? Colin asked, cutting right through my thoughts. Flinched at the name as it brought memories back. Caleb, my best friend, quite literally my partner in crime. Out cold on the floor beside me. Needle still stuck in his arm. Sirens wailing. Break of a Narcan shot. Look on my mother's face as they loaded us into the ambulance. The day I overdosed. The day I almost died. And the last time I saw Caleb. Last I heard, his parents cut him off and kicked him out. Ravi. Colin's hand was on my shoulder, warm and grounding. I blinked up at him, realizing I'd zoned out. No, I said hoarsely, shaking my head. I haven't spoken to Caleb since that day. My parents would kill me if I did. Colin made a small, disapproving noise at the mention of my folks. And they're still footing the bill for your sessions, I take it. I felt my face heat, shame prickling along my spine. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get back on my feet, but it's not like anyone's lining up to hire a junkie dropout with a rap sheet. Former junkie, Colin corrected gently. And you're more than your past, Ravi. You have so much to offer. Did I? I met his gaze, refusing to fall into the depths of his words. Instead, I flashed him a roguish smile. Maybe we could discuss my hidden depths over coffee sometime? Colin stiffened, his expression changing. Ravi, you know I can't do that. It wouldn't be appropriate. Right. Of course. What was I thinking? Colin was my therapist, not my friend. Not anything else, no matter how much I might want him to be. I hated him when I met him 10 months ago. A short and slender pretty boy who smelled like flowers was supposed to help me through rehab. What a joke. But he'd grown on me in more ways than I'd like to admit. I knew the way I noticed every little detail about Colin was messed up, crossing lines. But knowing that didn't stop the fantasies from playing out in my head. I faked a smile, ignoring the sting of rejection. No worries, Doc. Forget it. The rest of the session was a blur of the usual exercises and affirmations, and I could barely focus. As I got up to leave, Colin pressed something into my hand. A small, glossy card with a handwritten note scrawled on the back. Happy 300 days, it read, followed by a smiley face. I looked up at Colin, my heart lodging in my throat. He met my gaze, his eyes soft and warm. I'm truly proud of you, Ravi. Truly. I let my gaze roam over his slim frame, his delicate features. Tried not to fixate on his pink lips shaping the words of encouragement. Damn. This recovery thing was going to be even harder than I thought. because I was starting to crave something far more dangerous than the drugs. I was craving Colin. The next day, I walked into my childhood home, ready for the usual tension. Weekly dinners with my parents were the deal for them to pay for my treatment. An hour and a half of awkward small talk and choking down Mom's cooking was worth a shot of getting clean, but it still sucked. Ravi, Dad's stern voice greeted me. You're late. I bit my tongue. Sorry, Dad. Won't happen again. He grunted and went back to his tablet, probably checking stocks or emails. Always busy. I used to look up to his drive. Now it just felt like a wall between us. Bye! An excited voice squealed, rushing towards me from the staircase. Happy 300 days! Thank you, Ria. I embraced my sister with a grunt, taking the sight of her in. She spent a lot of time in med school, and I barely saw her anymore. She looked up at me, hair in a ponytail, brown eyes shining. I got you a gift, but it's delayed. I patted her hair dotingly. What did you get? Alcohol-free mouthwash. It was so hard to find. Don't worry, I bought 30 large bottles. My heart melted and I pulled her into another hug. Thank you. Recovery from addiction was more than just drugs and booze. Tasting alcohol and mouthwash during my first month in rehab sent me down a spiral of guilt. Ria understood. Truly, to be loved is to be known. Mom came out of the kitchen, eyeing me. You've lost weight. Aren't they feeding you in your fancy rehab? I held back an eye roll. Not the Ritz, Ma. I'm not in rehab anymore, remember? Well, you look too skinny. And she pushed a bowl of food at me. Eat. Ria sat next to me as I scooped some onto my plate, ignoring my queasy stomach. I wasn't hungry much these days, but skipping meals meant just more nagging. As I picked up my food, my mind went to Colin. His laugh, his gray eyes. Ravi! Mom's voice pulled me back. Are you listening? I blinked. Sorry. What? She huffed. I asked you if you found a job yet. You know I won't always be around to support you forever. Shame and resentment bubbled up. I'm looking, Ma. No one wants to hire an ex-junkie with no skills. Plus, I've got meetings and therapy. Yes, your very busy schedule of soul-searching and hand-holding. My father's tone dripped with condescension. We all have our struggles, Ravi. The measure of a man is how he shoulders that burden. Anger flashed through me, as if he knew what I'd been through just to function each day. But I bit my tongue. I am shouldering it, Dad. Doing the work. Find a job. Promise. The conversation then veered to other things. Neighborhood gossip, my sister's issues in medical school, all of which I let flow over me, making appropriate noises at the right times. My parents' disappointment followed me long after dinner, long after I left her home. I felt like I hadn't made any progress. Never be able to change my life to be someone worth loving, be worthy of someone like Colin. After almost an hour of walking, I found myself in front of the sober living facility, and the steel gates had never looked more inviting. But something else caught my eye. Cozy little cafe across the street, the windows full of light, beckoning pedestrians to come inside. Impulsively, I crossed over, but the sight inside stopped me in my tracks. Slumped in a corner booth, a steaming mug in front of him, and a dog-eared paperback lying in his hand, was Colin. He looked up, surprised. Ravi, wow, why are you here? Tried to act casual, heart pounding. Could I call this fate? What were the odds of running into one person I had on my mind? Just wondering, what are you doing here? My uncle owns it. I help out since it's close to work. He looked at me, choosing his next words carefully. I shouldn't be doing this, but want to join me? You look like you could use a friendly ear. I hesitated, remembering boundaries, but loneliness won out. Sure, that'd be good. As I sat across from him, something settled in my chest, and I realized why I was so drawn to Colin like a moth to a flame. There was no judgment with him, only acceptance. The next Wednesday. I tugged at my tie, the stiff collar feeling like a noose. Couldn't believe I was interviewing at my dad's friend's company. Felt like giving in to my parents' nagging about getting my life together. I wanted to find my own path, free of family strings. But I didn't have much of a choice. Ravi Singh? A tall woman in a pantsuit came out, smiling politely. We're ready for you. I followed her, palms sweating, heart racing. 2 other interviewers waited, faces unreadable. The next 40 minutes were hell. They tore apart my resume, pointing out every gap. The drop semester, the 5-year hole where job experience should be. This gap from 2020 to 2024. The woman tapped the paper. Can you explain? I swallowed hard, my father's warning echo in my head. Make something up, he said gruffly, not meeting my eyes. Took time off to travel, to find yourself, whatever. They don't need to know about all that. All that. Right. As we couldn't even say the words. Addiction, rehab, sobriety. I opened my mouth, a lie posed at the tip of my tongue. What came out was, the gap is there because I was a heroin addict. Spent those years shooting up, stealing, hurting people. But 9 months ago, I overdosed. Almost died. Been in recovery since, trying to fix my life. Silence. They stared at me, shock and disgust on their faces. I wanted to take it back, covered the truth. But it was too late. The questions hit fast. Details, timelines, explanations. Each one gutted me, and the room started to spin around me. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. I needed to get out. Get far away. I shot to my feet, my chair clattering to the ground behind me. Ignoring their startled expressions and their protests, I fled. The walk to my car, the drive across town, it was all a blur. My mind replayed the worst moment. The rush of drugs, terrifying numbness, my sister sobbing, sirens, waking up to what I'd done. Nothing had changed. I was a deadbeat then, and I'm still a deadbeat now. Before I knew it, I was pulling up outside the sober living facility, the familiar red brick building looming before me. I had no memory of driving here, no conscious decision to come to this place. But where else was there a Colin who would understand the storm raging inside me? I tumbled out of my car, barely remembering to slam the door behind me. The cafe across the street called me, warm sunlight spilling over the entrance. He didn't have any sessions at the facility today, which was easy to gauge after hanging around him for 10 months. I didn't have his number, had no way to find him, except for the cafe. For the first time, I prayed. I prayed he'd be in there. Panting, I burst in. Patrons stared, giving me a side-eye. Meanwhile, I scanned the shop for blonde hair and kind gray eyes. There, in the corner, unfairly gorgeous in a blue sweater, smiling at the barista, was Colin. I moved without thinking, weaving through tables to get to him. His eyes went wide, seeing me, color draining from his face. Ravi, what? I didn't give him a chance to finish. I threw my arms around him, burying my face in the crook of his neck as I clung to him like a drowning man to a life raft. He stiffened, his hands coming up to push at my chest. Ravi, stop, we can't, please. The word tore out of me, ragged and raw. Please, I need this. Just for a minute. Falling apart, Colin. I can't do this. I was shaking, gasps racking my frame as the panic attack crashed over me. The adrenaline from the interview was wearing off, leaving me wrung out and desperate, the craving rising up to swamp me. For a moment, he was still, his body rigid against mine. Then his arms slowly came up to wrap around me, one hand cupping the back of my head, his hold secure. His voice hushed softly, his breath a caressing brush over my hair. It's okay, Ravi. I've got you. Just breathe. You're safe. I shivered, drawing closer, letting his warmth, his steadiness seep into me, drawing in the now familiar scent of his cologne, the faint sweetness of his shampoo. Gradually, the ringing in my ears faded and my racing heart slowed down. The desperate, clawing need for a quick hit was now swallowed up by a bone-deep weariness. I sagged against him, faintly aware that we were making a scene, that was clinging to my therapist in the middle of a crowded cafe like the basket case I was. But I couldn't bring myself to care. Colin was here. He was real and solid and holding me together, and I couldn't do it myself. For now, that was enough. 1 month later, I stood outside Colin's office, a bouquet of red roses clutched in my sweaty hand. My heart was pounding, nerves and anticipation filling my gut. I'd never been the type of guy to buy flowers for anyone, let alone another man. But something about Colin brought out a side of me I hardly recognized. A softness, a yearning for a connection I long thought buried. I couldn't quite believe it. Sudden hot attraction to my very male therapist. I'd always considered myself straight as an arrow, but thinking of Colin, his smile so soft and gentle, his clever mind, the way he held me together when I fell apart. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Taking a deep breath, I pushed open the door and faltered. Colin sat behind his desk, his expression hard and closed off. Gone was the warm, open smile I come to rely on. In its place was a coldness that sent a chill down my spine. Ravi. There was no softness in his tone now. Come in. Close the door. I did, roses dangling limply at my side. I brought these for you. Colin didn't even look at them. Sit down, Ravi. I sank into the chair opposite him, my belly filling with lead weight. Colin, what's going on? Did I do something? Stop. He cut me off, gray eyes flashing. Just stop. You've been acting weird since that day at the cafe. The notes, the perfumes, the gifts. Stop. I swallowed hard. Oh, okay. I know I shouldn't have ambushed you like that. I was just wanted to get things you like a thank you for that day. You were there when I needed... What you needed, Colin interrupted, his voice rising, was a reality check. You don't need me, Ravi. You don't even know me. Not really. I blinked, taken aback by the sternness of his tone. That's not true. I care about you, Colin. I think I might be falling for you. He laughed in an abrupt, sharp sound. You think you love me? Give me a fucking break. You just need another addiction, a new way to slide past your messed up self. That's not... I wouldn't do that to you. But you are! Colin leaned forward as if his gaze could literally burn a hole through my very pores. Look at yourself, Ravi. You're nearly 30 years old and still clinging to mom and dad's coattails. Them paying for your rehab, your sober living, hiding out here because it's safe and easy and you don't have to face the real world. Each word was a blow to the gut, the ugly truth I've been struggling to avoid. Shame ran through my insides like acid. You were supposed to graduate from the program months ago, Colin added, but you chose to stay because you're not ready to grow up, to take responsibility for your own life. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, but the words stuck in my throat. Because he was right. I had been using the facility as a crutch, a way to avoid the hard work of truly rebuilding my life. And now this! Colin motioned to the roses, his lip. You're not the first patient to develop feelings for me, Ravi. It happens all the time. You all latch onto me because I'm safe, because I represent sobriety and stability. But it's not real. It's just another form of escapism. Nausea churned in my stomach, humiliation and hurt warring with a sickening sense of realization. How many times had I used relationships, sex, and infatuation as a way to fill the gaping void inside me? How many times had I clung to somebody, anyone, to avoid facing my own demons? I'm sorry. My voice cracked, hot tears stinging in my eyes. I didn't mean to put this on you. I never wanted to be a burden. Colin sighed, some of the anger draining from his face. You're not a burden, Ravi. But you need to focus on your own recovery, your own growth, not on chasing some fantasy version of me. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. Blindly, I stumbled to my feet, the roses falling forgotten on his table. The next few hours were filled with the mechanical process of packing my belongings from my room at the facility. It was all a blur, my mind reeling with Colin's words with the brutal realization of my own stagnation. Before I knew it, I was in my car, the sober living facility receding in my rearview mirror as the sun set and familiar darkness covered Detroit. Almost on autopilot, I found myself pulling into a familiar alley, abandoned warehouses looming on either side. In the distance, I could make out a small cluster of people, their laughter and chatter carrying on with the breeze. I knew them. My old crew. My best friend Caleb was among them, gaunt-faced and glass-eyed, the drugs coursing through his system like swamp water. My pulse picked up, every cell in my body singing with recognition. I knew what I'd find if I joined them. Oblivion. Relief. A few blissful hours where I didn't have to think, didn't have to feel. But as I reached for the door handle, My phone chimed with an incoming message. 2, in quick succession. The first was from my sister. Day 355. I'm proud of you. Second was from an unknown number. A picture of red roses on a vase. The same bouquet I brought to Colin. Beneath it was a single line of text. Fix your life first. Then let's see if you still feel the same. Colin. It had to be. Even now, even after I crossed every line, trampled every boundary, he was still looking out for me. Still believing. I could be better than my worst impulses. Slowly, I withdrew my hand from the door and took a deep breath. I wouldn't go back. Not to the drugs. Not to the self-destructive cycle of addiction and despair. I was better than that. Stronger than that. I had to be. Squaring my shoulders, I grabbed a bunch of flyers from my glove box and got out of the car, crossing the alley to where Caleb and the others were huddled. They looked up as I approached, surprise flashing across their wasted faces. Well, well, Caleb smiled, baring his discolored teeth. Look who it is. The prodigal son returns. Not quite. I tried to smile back, my heart aching at the sight of him, at the shadow of the vibrant boy I once knew. I'm not here to stay, Caleb. I'm here to help. His gaze narrowed a sharp, knowing glint. Ah, Saint Ravi, here to save our souls, is that it? Gonna drag us kicking and screaming to sobriety? No. I shook my head, sorrow and helplessness filling my chest. I can't save you, Caleb. Believe me, I wish I could. But this is a choice you have to make for yourself. I reached into my pocket and grabbed the balled-up pamphlets for the sober living facility. This place, these people, they saved me. Gave me an opportunity to get clean. Start over. I pushed the papers into his hand, holding his unfocused gaze. It isn't easy. It's going to be the hardest fucking thing you'll ever do. But it is possible, Caleb. If you want it. For one long moment, he just stared at me. Deep inside his enlarged pupils, hope and despair wrestled through loneliness. Then he turned away, pushing the flyers into his pocket. Perhaps. Someday. When I can afford it. His voice was gravelly low, barely audible. Do you know how much it cost? It didn't. A wave of tears stung my eyes. For the first time in my life, I realized how lucky I was to have parents who spent everything they had to make me sober. Not everyone had the privilege. I wrapped my arms tightly around Caleb, trying to convey all my love and hope in that embrace. When you are ready, I'll be ready too. I'll help you find a way. Promise. Before I could chicken out, I turned and walked away. From drugs, from hopelessness, from the person I once was and still could be if I decided to fall. The road ahead was one I had to walk alone. But for the first time in a long, long time, I felt hope in my chest. Colin believed in me. My parents believed in me. My sister believed in me. Now I just had to learn to believe in myself. One day at a time. One choice at a time. 3 months later. 3 months, 90 days, 2,160 hours. That was the exact amount of time since the last time I saw Colin. Since the time he told me to get my shit together and come and find him when I was ready. And man oh man, I'd been busy as hell. Who knew putting your life back together would be so stressful? But it wasn't a waste. I poured my heart and soul into starting up a foundation. A non-profit dedicated to getting people into rehab, no matter how deep in the hole they were. I knew a thing or two about that particular brand of misery, and empathy works better than sympathy in this case. It was a grind at first, making cold calls and pitching to stone-faced suits that looked at me like I was something they'd scraped off their shoe. Still, I kept at it, fueled by a fire in my belly and a bone-deep need to make my life right. Mom-pops offered to bankroll the whole operation, their chests puffed with pride for their reformed son. But I couldn't take their money. This had to be mine, a testament to how far I'd come. And slowly, surely, it started to pay off. Sponsors came knocking, drawn in by my story and my sheer force of will. I sent Caleb to rehab first. Seeing him start to put the pieces back together was a high no drug could ever touch. Life was good. Better than good. I was making a name for myself, earning my family's respect, doing something that mattered. But there was a Colin-shaped hole in my heart, an ache that no amount of success could touch. I longed for him, for the crinkling of his eyes when he laughed, to the sweet furrow between his brows when he was deep in thought, for the scent of him, all warm and floral and achingly familiar. I knew it wasn't just an infatuation. It wasn't just some twisted byproduct of our therapist-patient dynamic. This was real, bone-deep and soul-consuming attraction. Dare I say, love. But how could I tell my traditional, straight-laced Indian parents that the love of my life was a man? They'd only just started looking at me with pride instead of pity, with hope instead of disappointment. I didn't have the heart to shatter that fragile peace. So I kept my mouth shut, kept my distance from Colin, told myself it was for the best, that I was doing the right thing. But I just couldn't help myself. I drove by the cafe every chance I got, hoping for a glimpse of blonde hair, of gray eyes, of the man who stole my heart and saved my life all at once. Everything came to a head over my next family dinner. Ma was on a mission, pushing pictures of eligible girls under my nose like she was picking out curtains. "It's time, Betta," she cooed, her eyes shining bright with wedding fervor. "It's time to settle down, start a family, give us grandbabies to spoil." I almost spat out my food, my face flaming hotter than fire. And of course, my darling sister picked up on it like a bloodhound on a fresh scent. "Ooh, look at that blush," Rhea giggled, her fork pointing at me in a gleeful accusation. "Our Ravi's already got someone in mind." I wriggled like a worm on a hook, my heart playing on a drum solo inside my chest. It was, now or never. Do or die. Maybe this was the universe's way of giving me an out. "Ma? Pops?" I croaked, my throat drier than Sahara. What if the person I loved wasn't exactly traditional? You could have heard a pin drop in the silence that followed. "What are you saying, Ravi?" Ma asked, her voice soft, but her eyes narrowed into a glare. "You want to marry a white girl?" "Far from it. Ma, Pops, I'm in love with someone, but, he's a man." The fork dropped from Pops' hand, clattering against his plate, his face a picture of shock. I steeled myself for the explosion, the disowning that would surely follow. Only Rhea looked unfazed, even amused. "So?" she said, chewing on a bite of curry. "He was a lucky guy, then." I braced myself for impact. To be honest, I had nothing to lose. It's my therapist. The one who helped me get clean. And then it all came spilling out, the attraction and the connection and the way that Colin made me feel seen and understood and worthy of love, the way he pushed me away, told me to fix my life first, to come and find him when I was ready. Ma was the first to recover, her eyes going soft and thoughtful. "This Colin, he's the one who helped you, who got you through the worst of it?" I nodded, my throat tight with emotion. "Yeah, Ma. He saved my life, more ways than one." "Is he Indian?" Jeez. Uncontrollable laughter sputtered out of me at my mother's question. What? No, he's not. Pops cleared his throat, the sound of his chair scratching against the floor as he rose. For a moment, I really did think he was about to walk out and disown me on the spot. But he just stood there, his hand on the doorframe, his back to me. "Bring him home," he grumbled, not turning around. "Let's take a look at this boy who's stolen our Ravi's heart." This had to be an alternative reality. But I didn't have to be told twice. I shot out of the door, jumped into my car, and peeled out of the driveway. My heart was in my throat the whole drive to the cafe. My palms were sweaty on the steering wheel. What if I was too late? What if Colin had moved on, found someone else, decided I wasn't worth the trouble? I had to try. I needed to know. I entered the cafe, almost like a man on a mission, a bouquet of red roses that I had stopped last minute to get from a bodega clutched in my sweaty hand. And there he was, my Colin, talking to a customer. "Colin, Please, I called out, my voice heavy with emotion. Can we talk? He finally looked up, his gray eyes cool and distant. I'm working, Ravi. I don't have time for whatever this is. I thrust the roses at him, desperation making me look clumsy. My job experience was even better than my asking a man out of experience, so it wasn't my fault. Colin, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it took me so long. But I'm here now. I'm ready now. And I still feel the same. More than ever. Colin let out an incredulous sigh, reaching for the roses with reluctant hands. Ravi, it's been months. Thought you moved on. Can't just show up here and expect... I know I messed up. But please, just have dinner with me. Let me prove to you that this is real. That I'm not going anywhere. It's not transference. I see you for you, Colin. He watched me for a long minute, his expression strange. Then deliberately, he reached up and tucked a rose behind his ear, its red petals gleaming like rubies against his gold hair. 6 o'clock, he said, his voice gentle for once. Don't be late. I could have whooped for joy, could have swept him into my arms and kissed him senseless right there in the middle of the cafe. But I played it cool, gave him a nod and a smile. I'll be there. Thank you, Colin. You won't regret this. As I stepped out of the cafe, the spring sun warm on my face, I knew I'd already won the most valuable prize of all. Chance. A chance to love and be loved despite all my imperfections. Conclusion. Life got busier, but in the best of ways. Colin and I truly got to know each other outside of our previous conceptions and misconceptions. My foundation took off and we managed to spread our reach to more communities. Ma and Pops beamed with pride at every mention of me, and Rhea was excited to offer her services once we had a base office. Through it all, I had come to realize that recovery wasn't a destination. It was a daily journey. And judging by Rhea's growing pile of sobriety gifts, I was almost at my destination. Question. Can someone truly recover from addiction? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.